Welcome to the Bear Talk, your go-to Chicago Bears podcast, where a father and son break down all things Bears, from Soldier Field to Sunday showdowns. I'm your host, Dylan Weaver, and as always, joined with by my dad. How you doing, Dad?
Doing great, son. How you doing? We're in that part of the season where you talked about in the preseason predictions that Ben Johnson and this Bears offense start putting it all together. And while we lost that first one versus the Vikings, this is the one I think you're right about. We start to dominate. What
Yeah,
say you?
yeah. I mean, the offense lately has been trending in the right direction. Feel like ever since that Baltimore game, they've kind of, put together some good offensive displays and, in a sense, been carrying this defense that has been dealing with a bunch of injuries. And Dennis Allen's out there having to scheme up with a bunch of different guys every week. But finally looks like we might be getting close to this full potential of this defense. Very interesting news came out earlier this week, and we'll talk about that in the show. But I do agree this game, week one last year, or week one earlier this year against the Vikings, the Bears had that game. They played pretty good football for 3 quarters, and then the fourth quarter, they kind of all phases of the game collapsed. The offense couldn't close the game. Defense started giving up a lot of points. I think JJ McCarthy had 3 touchdowns in that fourth quarter. So good chance for the Bears to get their revenge on a game that they should have won. But most importantly, we are 0-2 in the division. And with the Packers and the Lions, all of us being right there within the same record, that division record could come into play if we happen to tie with any team. So definitely, I feel like this is a must win for the Bears. Um, and it could also, you win this game, you're pretty much knocking Minnesota out of the playoffs. After this, Minnesota's just off the top of my head, they still got to play the Packers twice, got to play the Lions one more time, and the Seahawks. So they, if we win this game, this will pretty much knock them out, move them down to 4-6 with 7 games left. They would need a crazy run on the back end to have a chance at the playoffs. So I feel like it's very important the Bears come out and win this game. But nonetheless, they are going to be playing in Minnesota's crowd. Very tough stadium to play in. But definitely need to win this game.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we get into the game, right, I want to talk to the Bears fans out there. How about this week with the media? I mean, Caleb Williams is like the prince of NFL football this week. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. Winning cures all. And obviously, Caleb had a pretty remarkable performance in those last, 2.5 minutes of the game against the Giants, and obviously the game before then with the Bengals. Although he had a great game with the Bengals, but did come back in the end to win that thing. Uh, and I think this is just another test, right? Interdivision opponent. We go to Minneapolis, playing, arguably the house that Kevin Warren built, right? If you think about it, hitting when he was with the Vikings and now with the Bears, solely for the purpose of bringing a new stadium to Chicago. So it's going to be interesting how this game plays out. But I really want to talk about the media, not only the local media, the national media, and I go back to winning cures all. Caleb Williams is really coming to his own, and I don't think there was an analyst out there this last week who wasn't, given the trophy to Caleb Williams, so to speak, based on his performance and what he's done, and arguably so. He's had a pretty remarkable last few games and even a season. If you think about some of the throws he's made, we talked about the basic ones have been the ones that are the one that he's having the incompletions on, and it's those Superman kind of heroic throws that he's been dominating at. And I'm sure you got the stat for that this week because there's been a lot of talk about that stat. But it's gonna be a great game.
Yeah. I mean, winning definitely does cure all, but as I was saying throughout the season, even some of those rough moments or where you didn't want to give Caleb Williams all the credit, this guy's been he's had a great year too. And Ben Johnson and Caleb, this pairing really starts to seem like it's fully clicking. I don't think it's on all the way complete, but it's definitely trending in the right direction. If for you Bears fans out there that follow the Bears on social media, they did release a video earlier this week of Ben Johnson and Caleb having a pretty good interaction. Caleb kind of pushes Ben kind of shows the trust they have. He gives him a little shove. Ben Johnson shoves him back. They bring it in. And you hear Ben Johnson say, I'm proud of you. I'm so proud of you. And Caleb Williams says, we got to get better. We got to get better. Even after, driving down the field, scoring 14 points in under 6 minutes at the end of that Giants game to come from behind and win that game. So as a Bears fan, you got to love what you're seeing. I've said it before the season started. I was even defending Caleb last year. This is the best quarterback the Bears have had, and there's no need to run this guy out of the building. He's been special. There's a long way to go, but this is for sure trending in the right direction.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%, but I do want to remind you, you also defended Justin Fields. So, I mean, just be careful. But you're right. Caleb Williams is a remarkable player. And you know that I know the cut you're talking about. It's in the locker room after the game balls were kind of given out, and it was that moment afterwards. And coaching athlete relationship, but almost like a father son relationship there too, right? Where Ben's watching his son grow, proud of him and his progression, and then the son slash athlete saying back, hey, I know we're good, but I got to get better, just to prove everyone wrong. So it was a pretty heartfelt moment there between the two of them, and really kind of, I think, solidifies that chemistry that Ben and Caleb have going on, which hopefully 10, 15 years to come, right? I mean, we've seen it around the league as Bears fans for so many years, where you have these quarterbacks and coaches that are just paired together forever, and they go on these winning season runs, or at least above 500, you know, get into the playoffs, sometimes get to a Super Bowl run. Uh, it would be amazing if the Bears could, put this together for the next 10 to 15 years. And I'm getting older in my life, so it'd be nice to end my life, on a positive note with 10 to 15 years of winning seasons out of the Bears. So that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it's definitely deserved. We've been needing it in Chicago for sure. Definitely have some bright years in there, but it's been mostly gloom and doom years, with coaches, quarterbacks, you name it. It's not been, so good. And it kind of leads me to a point too where it's like that is really throwing me off about this season. And I think most of it's due to the defensive injuries, but the Bears defense has always been the backbone of the Chicago Bears franchise. And now it's kind of flipping and it's like, why can't we get both now? Like, I do think with injuries, though, people coming back, I think this defense, I wouldn't say they're going to be a top 10, but I could see them middle of the pack unit where it's feasible to win games because of them, not be a liability in a sense like that. But just it's definitely a good time to be a Bears fan and enjoy it because we know how it goes. Anything can change in a snap of a finger, but nonetheless, this season so far it's been filled with roller coaster of emotions, but it's been exciting to watch, and all the years of watching us choke games or lose games. And this year we're doing the opposite. We're winning the close games. We're showing that culture that Ben Johnson has instilled in just year one of never giving up. Somebody's got to go make a play. And when it needs to happen, it seems to show up for the majority of the games played so far.
Yeah, absolutely. And I get your frustration, right, with the offense. I mean, obviously their record showing that they're top 10 offense out there in a lot of categories. But I remember growing up, I'd always get so aggravated. We had these, top five defenses, and I'm like, why are we wasting so many good years of these Bears defenses and the offense just can't put it together? And it's almost like the poles have shifted or shifted, or the scripts flipped. But contrary to what everyone believes, I know the defense has some opportunity, right? But they somehow find a way, right? Think about the Commanders game, right? You get the snap that's fumbled, we recover. The Giants game, we had an opportunity there that the defense comes up big in. So it's not that they're the best defense, but they're an opportunistic defense, and they're really just finding a way to help that offense out. And I think as the players get healthy, we get through the rest of the year, we'll be okay. I know you're probably going to talk about some secret chess moves being played there on the defense with Poles and Johnson, but don't count them out. I mean, 14-3 is still alive. It's still there.
It's definitely still alive, but yeah, it's going to be interesting down the stretch. We're finally going to get to play some opponents that are more than likely going to be in the playoffs, at least a majority of them down this stretch of the season. But it's what you want as a Bears fan. Okay, we've won the games we're supposed to win for the most part. Now let's see what we can do against teams that are going to be in the playoffs because, obviously if the Bears make the playoffs and they lose round one, I'm still going to be ecstatic. It was
as long as it's not a double doink.
It overlived, a year one with Ben Johnson. Like the expectations coming into this season, I think the sports betting market had him at 7.5 wins. We're 2 games away, and we still got 8 games to go here to see what we're made of. But I just want to continue to see this process. I want to see how we can play against some of these better teams, and like we've hinted at already early in this show, there's a lot of pieces coming back here shortly at the perfect timing. During the time we're like, come on, man, we need Jalen Johnson. We need Kyler Gordon. We need TJ Edwards out there. But at the right time, it looks like a lot of these pieces on that defense are starting to come back. And granted, a lot of these players that have been bouncing off and on this injury report, they've continually kind of got unhealthy this season. So hopefully when they do come back, it's for good and there's no injuries down the road, but it is football. You're seeing it around the league right now. There's so many teams that are banged up. It seems like every year these injuries keep getting worse and worse for these teams, and players are out for a lot longer of time. But it's kind of like Ben Johnson hinted at this week, next man up. Somebody's got to step in. They have confidence in them, but you got to step up. You got to make plays. But we'll see what happens down the stretch. But let's hop into our pregame matchup here against the Vikings. Kind of already talked about it too. The Bears threw away week 1 against this team in their stadium, which was definitely disappointing. But since then, they've been 6-1 in their last 7 games after losing to both the Vikings and Detroit week 1 and week 2. So they've definitely bounced back, found their footing, had some huge moments. But this game is about, getting one win in that division in the NFC North, because we are going to need it. But definitely 2 different teams, I think, is the main topic going into here. The Vikings, outside of not having, Jordan Mason week 1 because of that 6 game, or Jordan Addison because of that week one suspension for 6 games, the Bears are a whole different team in a sense of, if you just think about it, Kyle Monangai, I don't even think he got any carries in that game. If so, it was very little to none. At that point, too, our run game, if you remember, not until the bye week, after those first 4 weeks, we could not run the ball. We now have a top 5 rushing offense in the league.
The O-line's different since then.
I'll also say the O-line's different. We got Theo Bennett over there instead of Braxton Jones. On top of that, Colston Loveland, if you remember week 1, didn't have a single target due to scheme reasons. But now the Bears are starting to get Colston Loveland warmed up. And I think there's another rookie that's going to be on the shine this week, Luther Burden. After a huge game last week and Zaccheaus not having probably the worst game he's had of the season, probably out of a receiver for the Bears in general. I know Roma Dunze's had some drops, but Zaccheaus were drops where he's wide open and he's just dropping footballs. It's a total different Bears team for sure offensively. And then defensively, you look at it, we didn't have Jalen Johnson week 1, so that's not different. We also didn't have TJ Edwards week 1. Noah Sewell was playing in there week 1. So it's kind of the same Bears defense. And then you got to think about, we added CJ Gardner-Johnson. So Kyler Gordon didn't play week 1 either. So the Vikings are kind of going against the same defense, but this Bears offense is a way different offense compared to week 1. Now, granted, to that point too, Minnesota obviously has improvements. It's later in the season too, but as far as matchup and player scheme wise, it's pretty much the same team you're going against outside of Jordan Addison. So it's going to be interesting for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be interesting. And think about it too. week one, right? We were still having those pre-snap penalty opportunities. The offense wasn't really clicking on all cylinders. I don't think the playbook was 100% open while they were still learning and adapting to it from Ben Johnson. And we've seen now the last 2, 3 games that playbook's starting to open up, right? Ben Johnson's putting his foot on the accelerator. We're seeing the designer plays, not the trick plays. So it's definitely going to be I think it's while it's the same two teams, it's definitely two different identities that they carry from week one to now. And I think the Bears want a little payback, right? I mean, you think about they should have had that. We should really be 7-3 top of the division right now. But unfortunately, that last quarter we collapsed. And I think we got a different team with a little bit of payback in their blood that they want to go back there and get that one back and make up for what they did in week one.
Yeah. And before we hop into some of the scheme stuff that we're talking about, let's hop into the injury report as we always do on our pregame shows. Once again, starts to see a theme with Ben Johnson. As you see, when new head coaches come in, you can kind of see how they handle these injury reports. And it's starting to look like every Wednesday, the Bears are going to have a lot of people on that list just due to mostly veterans or, established guys getting kind of a rest day. Because Wednesdays is a lot of meetings. They kind of go over what they're going to be running, go over film review, like stuff like that. And then they do have a practice, but it's really not that important. So we've started to see a theme, I would say, the past month. When it gets to Wednesdays, there's going to be a lot of people on that list that are not practicing, but it's more so to rest, give them that extra day before Thursday hits, and they get in there and start actually not installing, but going over their packages, third down packages, red zone packages, stuff along those lines. But the two people that are going to be out for the Bears, Jade Walker, dealing with a concussion. He didn't practice all week. He is out. And then the other one that is pretty important, TJ Edwards, is going to be out as well. Still dealing with that hamstring injury. I don't think it has anything to do with that hand. They got it wrapped up in the cast, but still dealing with that hamstring injury. Didn't practice all week, which we'll talk about that when it comes to the Bears defense going this offense. But it is – we need TJ Edwards as much as Noah Sewell's very good in the run stopping of this defense on the defense. Noah Sewell is really a liability when it comes to the passing game and covering people. And that's a big hint at what happened week one. If you remember, Aaron Jones started catching balls out of the backfield, caught a touchdown on Noah Sewell. They kind of exposed Noah Sewell in the passing game. So TJ Edwards not playing is definitely huge for the Bears. It's not good. Two people that are questionable. Jaquan Brisker, he was dealing with a back injury all week, but he is going to play. I've already saw on Twitter they interviewed him after practice Friday and talked to him. He's going to be playing. He said he will be playing. He's like, I'm good. Expect to see me Sunday. So I think he's going to be fine. He did only have a limited practice on Friday, but last week, after breaking up that pass in the end zone and fell on his back, he was dealing with some sort of back injury, but he finished the game. He didn't even miss a snap on defense last week. So I think they were just giving him some extra rest. But Jaquan Brisker should be good to go, even though he is listed as questionable. And the interesting one that we can definitely talk about, Jalen Johnson. I mean, Ben Johnson opens up Friday morning's press conference with Jalen Johnson we have elevated him to the 21-day practice, which means essentially, if you don't know what that means, Jalen Johnson has 21 days of practice, and in those 21 days, they have to elevate Jalen Johnson to the active roster. Otherwise, he is out for the season. So seeing him get elevated is amazing. That was all cool. Well, then the injury report comes out. He was a limited participant Friday, but he is listed as questionable. Don't get me wrong. I do not think he's actually playing.
No.
I think it's more of a gamesmanship. They're trying to hold Kevin O'Connell and the Vikings to just think about it like, okay, wait, he could actually be playing. It would be a huge curveball and probably what they practiced for all week, scheme-wise, matchup-wise. I don't think he's actually going to play, but it's just exciting to see Jalen Johnson back out there on the field. Everyone seems so excited for him. I know Jaquan Brisker in that interview as well. They asked him about it, and everyone's so happy for him, seeing him go through the adversity he went through. Jalen Johnson has been here through all the lows of this Bears franchise since he's been drafted here. And now when they're finally having a good season, he hasn't been really to be a part of that in a sense of making an impact on the field. And that's got to help him to get him back on the field and wanting to get back out there to play with this team, because he hasn't got to experience this in his NFL career yet, because the Bears have continued to lose and have losing records. So it's just interesting to see. Although I don't think he was going to play. I did kind of jump the gun with you and was like, oh, wait, Ryan Poles, they might be playing chess over here, but I don't think he's actually going to play. But it's still good to see him back out there on the field.
I don't want him to play. I want him to play when he's healthy and probably when we're playing the Packers. That 21-day practice schedule falls right in line with that. So that's when we need him.
Yeah, I think he'll be there for that Packers game, but I think his first return will be that Eagles game here in 3 weeks, 2 weeks,
hopefully
2.5 weeks.
Unless we win the next 2 games.
I was about to say, we win Minnesota, we win the Steelers. Maybe it's okay to rest him 1 more week, but if he's good to go, man, having him in that Eagles game could be massive, because
rub some dirt on it out there.
I mean, we don't want to jump too far ahead of it, but Saquon Barkley is not having nowhere near the same year, not even half of the year he had last year. And the threat of the Eagles is their defense and then their 2 receivers. That's about it. If Jalen Johnson is back for that game, I would feel very confident. Not confident, but it's definitely a game I could see the Bears winning if he is back in that game. So it'd definitely be interesting. I will say, with him returning this early, I think he could be back, but we have seen them play it safe. There's been a couple of guys. Booker's an example of one of them, and there was one other guy, but they let the full 21 days go and waited till the last minute to actually elevate them, even when Booker was having full participants. And I think it is the smart decision, but I also think it kind of depends how these games go. If the Bears, in the next 2 games go 1-1, there's probably a little bit more sense of urgency to get him back out there on the field. If they go 2-0, then like you said, you can kind of play the game with the Eagles and not have it there. However, though, that is an NFC matchup, and if you do tie, it can come into some implications in tie. So I agree. If they do go 2-0, I think maybe play it safe, wait till the Packers week just to be sure that nothing else can pop up. But you never know. With him practicing this early, I don't think that Eagles game is off the schedule at all.
It will definitely be interesting to see, especially what happens the next couple of weeks. Obviously, that Black Friday game is going to be a big game, depending on how the next 2 games go, right? Don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but if we win the next 2, I think it's all hands on deck for that Eagles game, right? And we watched them play against the Packers. Wasn't a lot of offense.
Yeah, it really isn't. And I mean, that's no slouch. The Packers defense is a very good defense, especially that front 7. But like you said, if I even think you go 2-0, like you said, it's all hands on deck. Let's not even let this come down to week 18 to see if we make the playoffs. No. I would rather let's know week 16 or week 17. We know we're for sure in, and then you can mess around if you're in the, like, let's just say the Bears somehow are up for contention for that first seed for a bye. I mean, that's getting way too crazy. But
all right, the crazy thing is you just mentioned playoff and first week bye. And we're talking about the Bears. I think we got to slow down a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. But that's enough about the Bears injury report. Though, just 4 guys: T.J. Edwards, Jade Walker out, and then Jaquan Brisker and Jalen Johnson listed as questionable. Let's hop on down to the Vikings. Theirs was a laundry list as well most of the week. However, they just have 2 guys out. However, both guys for them are huge. Jonathan Grenard, their edge rusher, he is out. Didn't practice all week. Was dealing with that shoulder injury that he suffered in the Ravens game last week in their matchup. He is officially ruled out, and their center, Ryan Kelly, who they got over in free agency this past offseason, he is out as well. Was a limited participant all week dealing with that concussion, but he has also been ruled out. Those are two huge losses. Jonathan Grenard, he hasn't, in the passing game, he hasn't had as many sacks as what the Vikings hope bring him in, but he is a huge part of stopping the run on that Minnesota front seven. He is a massive loss for the Vikings in the run game. And I think it plays again into the Bears' favor. Run the ball. I know last week we talked about in the pregame before the Giants that the Bears need to run the ball, and we kind of seen Ben Johnson kind of get away from it, but Caleb Williams was also Superman last week, so it makes a little bit of sense. But this week, especially when you're playing in enemy territory, run the ball. We didn't have it week one in this matchup to rely on, so it's a little bit different. But now the Vikings are 22nd in run defense, and now they're taking out one of their best run stoppers at holding the edge, containing the edge. We need to pound the ball in this game. I think it is a huge part. You pound the ball early and you set up the play action later in the game and go for kill shots. But not having Jonathan Grenard is massive. And then also their center, Ryan Kelly, he's a veteran in the NFL, very good center, kind of like the Vikings and the Bears kind of did similar stuff in the offseason. They bulked up their trenches on both sides of the ball, didn't really go get talent or skill positions out there, kind of just bulked up in the interior. And those are two huge losses for them. You never know when other centers come in too, snaps, timing, everything could be off. The Vikings are coming off 8 false starts in their own stadium last week, kind of what we saw with the Bears earlier in the season. So now you bring in a different center. Maybe the timing's even more off. You never know. But the big one is Jonathan Grenard not playing in this game.
Yeah, I think our defense is going to make a bounce back from last week. I think they're a little embarrassed from last week's performance. So I think we're going to be okay.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, since you're talking about the defense, let's hop into them on matchup side of the ball against this offense. It really starts with, J.J. McCarthy. He's definitely had bright moments, but he's also had a lot of bad moments, as you expect. People are forgetting they did draft him last year, but he did not play last year. He suffered that injury in the preseason and didn't even get to play a snap last year in the season. So this is technically his rookie year. And like we kind of saw with Caleb last year with the rookie struggles, he has very bright moments. He also has moments where, especially last week, he's just throwing the ball and right into the defender. He threw a lot of deep passes last week that weren't even the receivers didn't even have a chance to catch it. It was just you're throwing pretty much you're punting the ball right to the defense that's getting intercepted. And the Bears are familiar with that. We had a lot of turnovers on them week one. And I think when it comes to this defense, I agree with you. This is definitely a time where the Bears defense can get back on track, especially maybe have another 3 to 4 turnover game in this matchup because they will put the ball in harm's way. We've seen it the past couple weeks, and even when we played them week one, J.J. McCarthy, he'll put the ball in harm's way, especially when it comes to throwing the ball in the air. And I think this is definitely a game where, this Bears defense can get right. I would sell out on stopping the run. Let J.J. McCarthy beat you with his arm. He can make throws. We know he can, but we also know he's going to make some bad decisions. Let him make some bad decisions. I would fully sell out on stopping the run, especially early in the game. The second half, you want to mix it up because now they know what you're doing 100%. But the main message coming into this game should be stopping that run and letting J.J. McCarthy beat you with his legs or with his arm. I think that's the main thing to do here.
Yeah, and don't forget Montez Sweat. Look at what he's been doing over the last few weeks. I mean, he's really coming into his own. Booker on the other side, right? We had a lot of high hopes for him last week. I don't know if we actually saw that from the week before when he got the sack. But I think this is a game those two really contain and do make him pass that ball. And then you got Gardner back there who I think can make some action happen. And Tyreek Stevenson's looking for a comeback game as well. He's been a little quiet the last couple of weeks and been beat on a lot of deep plays.
Yeah. And I was about to say, if you remember week one, their star receiver, Justin Jefferson, got held to 47 yards.
Yep.
One touchdown. He did have a big touchdown catch, but outside of that, he was held pretty limited what we thought coming into the game. And that was, if you remember, that was mostly Nashawn Wright. He was pretty much mirroring him, which was weird. He had that pick six on Justin Jefferson as well. Not really Jefferson's fault, but like we said, McCarthy will put that ball in harm's way. But I do agree. Montez Sweat is, I think he's got a sack now in the past 4 games. He's continuing to heat up, not quite at the level, but he's starting to get back to that point why we brought him over here.
Yeah.
To be a double-digit sack leader come end of the season, and he's on pace for that. He's at 5.5. You got what is it? 8 games left, so there's plenty of time for him to get up into those double digits in the sack column, especially with the slow start he did have. He's been on a heater here recently, so definitely I agree. Sell out on stopping the run. Dial up the blitzes on third down like Dennis Allen likes to do. Let JJ McCarthy not really know what's happening. Keep him, guessing what coverage we're in, what we're going to do. Are people going to drop? And I think this could be a very good game for this Bears defense. I mean, like we talked about, week one, it was a great game for 3 quarters, and then it all just fell apart. So the main message should be starting the game strong and finishing the game strong, and find a way to get your first win in the NFC North with the gauntlet of a division it really is.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's going to be a great game. I'm really excited for it. And I think, like I said, the defense is looking for a little payback from that one quarter that they fell apart in.
Yeah, for sure. But let's hop over into the offensive side of the ball. I think this is definitely the toughest defense. Caleb even said it this week that he's gone against so far in his NFL career. Brian Flores is kind of like Dennis Allen. He'll send people at the line and you have no clue who's coming, who's dropping almost every single play. And it was curious because week one when we played him, he didn't really blitz as often. He dropped people back in coverage. And Caleb, that was, if you remember, we were up in Tennessee watching that game at the cabin, and Caleb was doing all the short stuff, just finding the open guy, checking it down, go, go, go. And it was beautiful. And then the second half coming, he did start to heat him up in the blitz, and it kind of all fell apart in that game. But the weird thing is the Bears offense, mostly Caleb, is way better against the blitz than they are when there's no pressure. So it'll be interesting to see what Flores does against our offense, especially with, the chess match that it is between him and Ben Johnson and Kevin O'Connell. Like, do they heat him up early? Do they do what they did last time and kind of just sit back and relax and wait to see what happens? But it'll be interesting to definitely see, because if you do heat him up and blitz him and Caleb gets out of that pocket, that means on the back end you're probably playing man coverage and Caleb's going to run. We've seen it. He's starting to use his legs. He's very slippery at getting out of stuff. If he can get out in space when you're blitzing and they're in man coverage, Caleb could have a massive day with his legs once again, like we've been seeing these past couple weeks. So it'll be interesting to see. I think my main thing for this Bears offense, I've said it already, run the ball, get running early, set up the play action for later in the game, get a lead, play with the lead. And we know Ben Johnson, he's not going to get conservative after going up 10-0 or 14-3. If he's up, he's not going to get all conservative and just start running. He has a methodical game plan to annihilate you, kind of like we've seen Detroit do the past couple years. They don't care if they're up 20 points. They're going to still go. Their main goal is to go down there and score, whether that's passing or throwing the ball. But I think early and often we need to run the ball, see what the run game looks like against this Vikings defense now that it's a second-time matchup. And it'll definitely be interesting to see the different changes. This is both teams' first time playing a same opponent in it's the second time they've been playing each other this year. So the different changes from week one will definitely be cool to see from both Ben Johnson and the Viking side of it as well.
Yeah, I think too, like Brian Flores, you think about that first game where, it's kind of a vanilla defense for 3 quarters. And that fourth quarter, he really dialed it up and sent the pressure nonstop. And that's what seemed to, get to Caleb. I imagine if I'm Ben Johnson, I'm thinking, what's Brian Flores going to do? And if I was Brian Flores, I would start out with the pressure, right? You knew that beat him in the first game. But I think if Ben, you look at Caleb and all these games so far, and we talk about the scripted plays, right? What are the first 15 to 20 scripted plays? If I'm Ben Johnson, I'm scripting the plays to actually prepare for that pressure from Brian Flores, using Colston in some, crossing routes so you can get rid of the ball really quickly. Which I think with that happening, that just builds up Caleb's confidence and the offensive confidence, where that pressure is not getting to him. And like you said, you talk about the elusive ability of Caleb Williams scrambling, getting out of the pocket, making some passes on the run, as well as just running the ball in general. And I think if we script it right, and if we plan on Flores dialing up that pressure in the first quarter slash half, and if he figures out, Ben Johnson figures out how to do that on the front side, and we score some points quickly, I think that ruins and kind of implodes the Vikings' defensive game plan, and we'll see that they get frustrated really quickly.
Yeah, I'm not going to say who my secret weapon is yet because I'm saving him for my MVP of this offense of this game and our predictions. But there's a guy I think who's going to have a pretty good game this
Stop
week.
it.
But I agree. I feel like we got to see the run game a little bit more early in
Can
this
I
game.
just guess who you're picking?
No, no, no.
I want to guess.
No, I mean it's obvious who I'm going to say. I
I'm
think
picking.
no.
It's Burden.
Yeah, it is Burden, but
You're like Baskin Robbins and 31 flavors and the flavor of the week.
I'm telling you, man, that I think he's due for a big game this week. But I'm gonna save it for the predictions. I'll explain why.
Oh,
Come when we get to the predictions. But real quick, while we wrap up this offensive side of it and the success, I think we just last week Ben Johnson opened up with a lot of heavy play action against the Giants. Kind of the reverse psychology because coming into the game, the Giants' run defense was terrible. Though also the conditions of that game were brutal. So the Giants probably expected a lot of run early in that game, and Ben Johnson did the complete opposite. I think in this game, though, let's get back to our roots. What has really been successful for this Bears offense? It's running, 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 then pass, run, 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 pass. I want to see a lot more Kyle Monangai in this game for sure. DeAndre Swift as well, but I think with Grenard being out, you run this ball and it plays to the strengths of our offensive line. Theo Benedict is still trying to figure out the passing game, which is totally understandable. Undrafted free agent, first year starting. But in the run game, Theo Benedict is run blocking really well, and the rest of the O line is as well. Obviously, Darnell Wright, he's having a Pro Bowl type year. He's
amazing.
unbelievable. He's on NFL highlights every week on their social media page for pancaking, just running people over. I also could see this might be the week Darnell Wright gets a touchdown in this game. It's been waiting. Ben Johnson loves the O lineman. He could save it for a more crucial game down the stretch, but I think it's his time's coming here soon.
Just make sure he declares as an eligible receiver.
Yeah,
We've
I
seen that.
agree.
We've seen that snafu happen before.
Yep, we definitely have. But I think lastly, like I said, run the ball early in this game and set up the pass later on. Caleb Williams has continued these past couple weeks to play at a really high level. Kind of put the team on his back for sure in the past two matchups. But yeah, I think the main thing is I really want to see the ball ran this week. I do. I want to go up early and run this ball down their throats and set up the pass later on in this game.
I'm going to go the opposite because you know what we've talked about the last, I don't know, forever games since probably Detroit. We've been talking about weather and how the wind is going to play a factor, the snow is going to play a factor, the rain's going to play a factor. This isn't a dome. I think this is the perfect game for Caleb, and Caleb, like any human being, right? They crave the positive, right? And we talked about wins cure all. He's feeling good. Ben's feeling good. I think this is the air attack game. While I get it, right? That the run for most NFL teams, that's the way you do it. Set up the run for the play action pass. I think this is the game though that you see vertical, because we haven't really seen a lot of that from Ben Johnson, but we know it is in his repertoire, especially when he was coaching or as the OC for the Lions. And I think this is the game indoors. No wind, no weather concerns, no snow, no rain. I think we go vertical on this game, and you may be right about Luther Barton, but I also think this is Colston Loveland's game, where we got seam routes, and we're seeing it down the middle, and just we've seen that pass from Caleb now. He can surgically insert that ball over top of defenders and drop it exactly where it needs to be. So while there will be run, right, you got to have the run game in there. I think this is a vertical game. I think we've predicted now for what week are we on? 10, 11?
I think it's week 11,
Week
our
11.
10th game. Yep.
10 games now we've been predicting a 300 plus yard game from Caleb. Indoors, no weather factor. This is the game.
Yeah, we will definitely see. If you really watched last week with the Ravens, I know it was kind of hard to watch because the Bears were playing at the same time, but they were running all over them, and the score doesn't really show. They kicked their first 4 drives were all 4 field goals, and they just struggled in the red zone last week. But they were running all over this team for the majority of the part. Lamar Jackson obviously made the plays when he needed to, but they were running all over them. And I really do think with Grenard being out, you have to run this ball. I know everyone wants to see the 300-yard passing game, but I'm okay. I'm okay with pounding this ball. This is a big game. I think if you go past, you try to do an air raid game, you're getting too cute and playing too much. Let's bury them early with running the ball, and we can still set up the pass later on. Caleb Williams, I still think is going to have a 225 plus yard game in here, but I think the main story of this game is going to be these running backs going crazy. I really do. There should be some big holes opened up the way we've seen the run blocking. And on top of that, I just think people aren't really understanding how good of Grenard is in their run stopping ability for this defense and setting that edge. So I really think this could be a very good game for this rushing offense.
We will see. Obviously, we differ on opinion of what we think this game should look like.
Yep, and we also differ on a lot of things about Caleb Williams and who was right about him. So let's run the ball. But no, either way, as long as we win the game, I don't care how it's done. I don't care how it's done. But I think personally going the game, it's going to be running. But enough of offense and defense talk. Let's hop into our predictions of the game and our MVPs. I will let you kick it off. Let's start with you. Give us your offense, defense, MVPs, as well as your score prediction for this game.
I'll let you guess who my offensive player is going to be this week.
Colston Loveland.
No.
Caleb Williams. Okay.
I'm going Caleb. I haven't picked. I don't think I've picked Caleb yet.
Well, we usually do say you can't pick Caleb because it's too obvious, but that's a good point you bring up because I don't know if you know who's on the call this week. It is Tom Brady. Last time Tom Brady was on this game, it was against the Raiders, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But he won every week. Tom Brady does an LFG, let's fucking go, player of the game. And Tom Brady gave it to Caleb last time he was on the call. Actually, no, it was the Cowboys game that Tom was on when Caleb had the 4 touchdowns.
Oh.
But Caleb is a big fan of Tom Brady. If you know, he looks up to him in a lot of ways. And you know
Tom
what?
Brady's a big fan of Caleb too because he's got his rookie card. Hopes it's worth a lot of money.
Yeah. And I mean, maybe you might be right. Maybe Caleb comes out here and just shines.
It's gonna be the game. I'm telling you right
Tom
now.
Brady is there, and he'll probably want to stack that award. I don't think so far on Tom Brady's, because he's been on he's covered multiple teams this year, twice in a season this season, and no one has won the LFG award, the same player in both seasons. So maybe Caleb does it. I wouldn't be surprised if he does get it.
It's gonna happen.
Why don't you hop? Okay, then predict his stat line. What's his stat line going to be?
I'm going 334 yards passing through the air.
Jesus.
I know, right? Jesus is right, because you will be going nutso. And I'm going to go 3 passing touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown.
Okay.
And I think we're going to hit that elusive 70% completion percentage.
Wow.
Yeah, it's going to be a big game. It's the confidence there. It's like Neo, like I said last week in the post-game show, and the Matrix, and understanding that he's the one. He's going to be the one in this game.
Yeah. I mean, with a 70% completion, it doesn't shock me. Not that he definitely hasn't hit 70% at all this season, but there's definitely been a couple of games he should have easily had 70% if our receivers could catch the football. But, I could see it happening. And you know what? For your sake and for the Caleb Williams media's sake, to keep riding this high, 334 yards, 4 touchdowns would be amazing.
And that's pretty specific, 334.
Yeah.
So write that down.
We'll see what happens. For your defense MVP, though, who you taking?
I gotta stay with Tyreek Stevenson. I've been riding him all year long.
Yeah. He's definitely had his ups, he's had his downs, and one thing that I will say is true. We've seen it starting the season. Week 1 and week 2, he was kind of down, and then he come back. He is coming off he didn't play good against the Bengals. He did not play good last week either.
No.
So
he was getting whooped last week.
This could be the game where he comes back and he's playing like a menace, like we've seen him a couple times in this season. But he's been very up and down this year. But still think he's having overall, I'd say he's having a definitely a bounce back year for sure. Last year was a roller coaster for him after that Commanders Hail Mary. But let's hop into your score prediction. What is your final score prediction in this game?
35-21.
I like that score prediction. I actually like it a lot. I'll hop into my offense. I know you already guessed it. I am going with Luther Burden, and for a couple of reasons. I think
Caleb throwing on the ball.
I think Luther Burden is a ticking time bomb waiting to go off. Last week, we did see him and Zaccheaus were pretty 50% on snap share last week. And I want to read you a quote real quick from Ben Johnson earlier this week when asked about Luther Burden. He's a guy who is starting to get more targets. It's a trust level between the coaches and the player. It's a trust between the quarterback and a receiver. It continues to ascend. He has been very productive when he's about to get the ball in his hands, and there's a strong argument that we should get it to him more. That was Ben Johnson this week on Luther Burden after that game against the Giants. And I think one thing we know about Ben Johnson, he's going to tell you how it is in the media. He's not like these previous Bears head coaches who tickle around. Yeah, I need to get back to the tape before I can answer that question. No, he answers the questions when you ask him, and he answers them honestly. And I think this is a hint at we're going to see a lot more Luther Burden this week. He's continually to show when you throw him the ball, he does the right thing. I think he has the higher passer rating when a quarterback targets him for the Bears this year out of all of our receivers. Zaccheaus is coming off a very rough game where it kind of starts to lower your trust for him. As much as Ben Johnson praised him in training camp and before the season started about him knowing every receiver position, knowing what to do at the exact moment, some of that trust after last game can start to definitely dwindle down after multiple drops. I mean, a drop touchdown, there's a dropped like 30-yard ball post route right in his hands with nobody around him. A lot of huge drops by Zaccheaus last week. And Luther Burden, when thrown the ball to last week, what does he do? He catches it and turns it into a great play. this is the Luther Burden game. He's a secret gadget that hasn't really been fully unlocked. Yeah, people know about him, but they don't know his potential. And I think this is Luther Burden game, 100+ yard game, maybe multiple touchdowns, 1 touchdown for sure. I got Luther Burden as my offensive player of the week. I think Ben Johnson hit it at it perfectly. He's a player you could argue should get more opportunities. So this guy is going to be my offensive player of the week. And for my defensive side of the ball, you know what? I'm riding the hot hand. I had CJ Gardner-Johnson right last week. I can see him again. He's been with us for 2 weeks. He's ready third on our team in sacks. I can see this guy having some more sacks in this game. Maybe even a strip sack on one of these hits too, coming off the edge. JJ McCarthy doesn't see him coming. JJ McCarthy's also dealing with that hand injury. His throwing hand, he had taped up all week, and he was already talking about, you do have to throw the ball differently. It feels a little bit different. So I could see maybe a strip sack in here, maybe even CJ Gardner-Johnson. We've been saying it the past couple weeks that he was going to get a pick 6 or a pick. Maybe this is the week where he finally gets it, but I'm riding the hot hand. I love CJ Gardner-Johnson, everything he's about. There's a lot of questions bringing him in of people questioning, his attitude because he's had previous, stints with other teams. But Dennis Allen, Ben Johnson have both had him on their team in previous years. And it sounds like the vibe in that locker room with Gardner-Johnson, especially for that defense, is at an all-time high. So I'm riding the hot hand with CJ Gardner-Johnson. I did like your score prediction, 35-21. However, I am going to go 34-24 Bears victory in this game. I do agree. I think we're going to get over 30 points. I feel like we're about to start seeing this offense not get quite to the Lions level where they're consistently putting up 30 to 40 points a week, but I do think this is a week where the offense, it's continued to kind of gradually, slowly keep on getting better and better. And like you talked about from the top of the show, this offense is a ticking time bomb. It's starting to peel back a lot of layers. They're starting to run a lot more stuff consecutively. Now you're getting more game-like reps. I feel like it's a matter of time before this offense is starting to, really heat up and show what they're capable of.
Yeah, it's going to be a remarkable week, and I'm just excited for the game. I think it's going to be a good one.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a real good one.
Yeah, it's definitely exciting now. In the past, we're like, yeah, the Bears play today, but they're not going to win. So is it really fun? These Sundays, I went literally the day after the game ends, Monday, I'm ready for Sunday. I'm like, I want to play now. Like, it's really fun to watch this team. And I think that's been my favorite part about this year so far is just finally having a team where, it's exciting to watch. And, going into the game, you have a chance to win. When years prior, we can say we thought the Bears were going to win. No, we never had belief.
Deep down inside,
deep down, they're not going to win. And this team, there's just a different vibe to it, and you can definitely feel it through the players, through watching these games, and most importantly, through Ben Johnson.
It's going to be a great week. I would say too, like we unfortunately had a passing in the family this last week with our family dog. Max, and he was a great dog. He's watched as many Bears games as he was alive because that's what we do on Sundays, right?
Yep.
And this, as they say, right? Let's win one for the Gipper. Let's win one for Max on this week. It would just be the icing on the cake of this week.
Yeah, it would. Definitely a rough week for our family, but it would be nice to finish it off with a positive with the Bears win. And like you said, for Max, but that will do it for this episode. My apologies. Don't forget, down in the description, all of our social medias are down there to stay up to date with us. I am thinking a possibility out there for tomorrow, setting up our TikTok live with our live reactions to the game. Finally started to figure it out how we could really put this together. So if you want to follow along, make sure to check out the description. Give us a follow on TikTok so you know when we're live. But we are going to try to do kind of a watch along on TikTok, which would be really cool. But as always, like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell button to stay notified. We post every pregame and every postgame show. And then obviously any breaking news with the trade deadline being over. I don't think there's going to be really much breaking news for the rest of the season. But if there is, we always would do an episode for stuff like that as well. But that will do it for this episode. We will catch you on the postgame show, hopefully with another Bears victory to extend this to a 3-game winning streak. But for now, Bear down.